Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Mixed Signals. You guys, today, let's talk about horrible bosses. I know we have all had them, and we all know the difference between a good boss and a bad boss. I am going to say before I get started that if you are in a job, it's horrible boss, horrible experience, you can no longer handle that job. Only time I'm going to tell you to quit is if you feel like you are on the verge of a mental or emotional breakdown. When you can financially take care of yourself or however long it takes for you to get the next job. If you are not on that verge of a mental, emotional breakdown, and you're like, I am not financially stable, I have to stay here, start ignoring the people around you, disassociate, disconnect. That will definitely help you to get to the next job. Please put in your resumes constantly. I don't care if you got to run to the bathroom, put in that resume, put in a resume, put in a resume. If you got to take a sick day or say, hey, I got to take the rest of the day off, females, you could be like, I'm not feeling well, it's about that time of the month, go to that interview. I don't ever want you to be in a deficit. I don't ever want you to be negative or be lacking because, you can't stand your boss. You can't control anybody and their response or their reaction to you. You don't want to be lacking, having no groceries in the house, not being able to pay mortgage, rent, bills, nothing, and just be jobless and with nothing. Okay. So 3 things I want to say about these. Well, not 3 things, but I'm going to talk about 3 different jobs, same environment, same area, different horrible bosses. Again, I'm in a town of like 1,200 people, very small community. It's like if they see you being consistent, these people are gonna ask, well, hey, have you ever thought about working over here or doing something like this? We're hiring. That's word of mouth always was how different jobs would come up. Now, a few things that these horrible bosses had in common were lack of boundaries, terrible communication skill set, employee favoritism, strange behaviors, manipulative mentally and emotionally. What else did they do? Personal lives that flooded into the professional life. Just you guys, again, horrible bosses, very negative, low energy, low vibrating humans. So let me talk about the first job that I had. I was working at a restaurant. There was only like 3 or 4 restaurants in this town. Again, very small, 1,200 people. I was working at this franchise restaurant and I thought, let me just get my foot in the door. I've been here 2 weeks. I need a job, make some money. And my boyfriend and I were there, same mentality. Let me get a job. We both were working at restaurants, different restaurants though. And guys, my first 2 weeks on the job, nobody would train me. Not one of the servers would come up and train me. They wouldn't show me how to use the computer. They wouldn't show me, the POS system. They wouldn't show me, what needed to be done for the day. There was no lists, no direction, nothing. To where finally the next week I'm having to start complaining. It was like a Friday and I'm like, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing. It's the end of the day, because, my GMs asked me, like, why aren't you doing this? Or why don't you know, like, hey, this is over here. This is this, like, what's going on? I was like, well, they're not training me. And she had witnessed me ask one of the other servers for help. And she was like, you know what? Next week, I'll train you. You start coming in in the mornings and I'll have you trained. I'll, teach you everything I know. You'll be as good as me. And then she's like, well, probably not as good as me, but you'll be up there. I'm like, oh, okay, great. Sorry. And I'm the one apologizing to her. Again, you guys, I attracted these type of jobs because I didn't have great boundaries, if any at all. I do now, but I was definitely lacking in boundaries. I didn't advocate for myself. I was in a new environment. I didn't know, lingo. I didn't know the community. I didn't know how things work, and I was just learning about, narcissism, which I do believe that these 3, bosses I'm going to talk about are on the line of narcissism. I'm not a psychologist yet. However, everything I've read and researched, they definitely fall under that scope. Now, she's telling me she's going to train me. So it's that next week, and 2 of the waitresses out of the 4 end up getting let go. And it's because they have substance abuse issues, and they were doing these substances on the job and got caught and got let go, and hands cleaned, wiped of these people. And my GM is training me. She doesn't talk to me about it. She just lets me know, hey, in this area, small town, there's a lot of substances that this community uses, and it's really gone downhill. It's very low in energy, and which was true. It really was. Where I was just like, well, I'm not from here, and now that there's some more hours open, if you could give me some more hours. And she's like, well, if you like mornings, then I can have you as the morning opener. And I thought, wow, like that's a lot of responsibility for somebody who's barely been here but 3 weeks. That was my 3rd week, where I was like, geez, already? So to me, that was like her building trust into me. But really, she just didn't have good employees. So of course I was like, yeah, she's like, you'll come in, you'll get everything prepped for like the salad bar, you'll get, everything ready for the soda fountain, you'll get everything ready like ice, and make sure, dishes are done, you'll get tables set up, chairs, you'll make sure, the front end is, taken care of, vacuumed, everything, you're doing side work and getting everything prepared for like the mid shift, just doing what you can. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I could do that. So like instantly I had full time at that moment. Like she had put me on for 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. And I was like, cool, I'm, getting up there, I'm getting what I need to. So I started noticing some strange things about the GM. I'll call her Desiree. And I would be having a conversation with a coworker, like a cook, being like, hey, how's it going today? And Desiree would be like, what? And just interject in the conversation, where I would be like, oh, I was talking to the cook. And she would be like, what? Very strange, you guys. She did this. I mean, I was there only 6 months, but she did this kind of stuff all the time, where I'd be like, I wasn't talking to you, I was talking to the cook. I mean, to the point where I would just ignore her and let her say, like, again, you guys, grandiose sense, okay, grandiose behavior. She would turn the conversation right on to herself. Well, this is what I've done today. I've done your job today. I've done your job today. I've done this. I've gotten all this stuff done. You guys, when I first started out, we would have competitions, and I was the fastest one. That's why I'm the GM. That's why, I'm the boss, and I'm doing everything, and I make really good money. Every single time would make it about, anytime someone was having a conversation, she had to make it about herself. Where it made it so it's like, I don't even want to talk anymore, because I don't want Desiree interjecting herself. Like, I don't want to hear about it anymore. Another situation with Desiree is she started to notice, obviously, I was kind, I was nice, I showed up when she asked me to show up. There was a lot of employees who would call off all the time. And guys, again, this is a small town, small area, like stop and go town, maybe 2 stoplights, 2 or 3 convenience stores. Seriously, a fill up and go kind of town. And these people would call off of work and be like, yeah, my back hurts, I don't feel good, or this or that. And then you would see them, bumping it, in the parking lot, and picking up people and going out to the casinos, where it would be like, I thought you said like they didn't feel good. Like, I just saw them. I remember the one time that I did call in, and I was telling Desiree, like, hey, I don't feel good. She made a big huff and puff about it. Literally like, you're letting me down, Nicola. I don't know what else I'm going to do. I'm going to have to stay. And I told my kids I would be home to cook dinner, and I would do this. And, it's like, everybody's always like complaining to me. Everyone's always sick. And I'm like, like seriously, like coughing, where I was just like, I think I had the flu, something going on, but it was the worst of it, where I was like, I can't come in. I'm sorry. But I had never heard Desiree talk to anybody else like that, ever. I had never heard Desiree project onto anybody else like that. Normally when people would call in, she'd be like, okay, thanks, bye. And she would have to take over their position. Whether it was the cook or a front end, or, it was a driver, she would have to take over to their position and do their job until the next person showed up, if at all. Now, again, like I said, they lack boundaries. She was always interjecting, always inviting herself into conversations just to talk about herself. Um, when it came to prep work, I remember, a couple months in, I would start to notice how nothing was ever prepared for me. Let alone it was like I had enough time to prep for like the mid shift where my tasks started getting larger and larger, where I would say I just feel like I'm doing everything for everybody. And here comes Desiree, so do I have to do everything for everybody too. And where I finally told her, where, listen, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not prepping for night shift, because they're not prepping for me, and they leave me with nothing. They leave me with dirty stuff. And they got to learn their lesson. They were never going to learn their lesson. Desiree knew that, because she hired them. Low energy, low vibrating people, where she would make me do the prep work for the whole restaurant every day. And again, you guys, that's why I was only there for 6 months. I couldn't handle it. It was so much for me. There was a situation where one of the employees, again, had called off. The schedule had gotten messed up. So 2 people didn't show up, and we had a restaurant full of people. I was the only server. And this brings me back. I was the only server, and I was calling the GM. She had taken the night off. She wasn't feeling well. I was calling the GM, Desiree. I was calling other servers. I was calling people to come in. I'm asking the cooks, I need you guys to come out on the floor and help me take orders. This whole place is filled. Tell me why these cooks were like, that's not my job. I wasn't hired to work in the front end. I'm hired to cook the food. I was like, yeah, well, there's more of you than there is of me. You guys, I can't do this. And I'm telling all of them, you guys, I can't handle this. And they're like, sure you can. You'll be okay. I think it was like a harvest dance night or something going on with the high school. And I was just like, you guys, I really need your help. You guys, to the point it was so bad. I'm so dramatic. But I fell out on the floor. Like, I seriously was just like literally just crumbling. Like, I just sat on the floor in the back of the restaurant, and I froze. I said, I can't do this. All the cooks were just staring at me. They were like, are you going to get up? Because there's people that keep coming through the door, and we don't know how to work the POS system. And I'm just sitting there. Tears are coming to my eyes. And they're like, oh, my God, you are so dramatic. Get off the floor. Where I'm like, what the F am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? I'm all by myself. Nobody will answer the phone. Nobody's picking up. I'm like, I can't be the only person here to do everything. You guys, after that, I was like, this is when I learned nobody's going to rescue me. Nobody's going to help me. Some of these cooks, you guys, had been there for 5 years. Mind you, I'd only been there a few months. Some of these cooks had been there for 5 years, didn't know how to work anything. Okay? And I remember, I had to pick myself off of the ground and go and serve all these people, help all these people out. I got everything done. We were probably there till 1 a.m. cleaning up when we closed at 10 o'clock at night. I handled the whole situation. I mean, again, I froze, but I got myself back up, and it was probably maybe 5 minutes where I was like, I can't do this. Like, everyone just staring at me. And I told Desiree the next day, like, hey, you guys really left me hanging there. I feel like I had a breakdown. I mentally, physically could not do anything. I couldn't even move. And she was like, yeah, well, I wasn't feeling well. And I don't know how the schedule got messed up. Nonchalant, nothing. What I had done was nothing. So that to me, definitely made me feel like I can't be here working anymore. If you're not even gonna have any empathy for the situation, and, again, grandiose sense of self, I've had to do that so many times, and I had to do this, where I had to stop her and be like, I didn't ask you that. I'm just trying to let you know what I had to do last night, let alone, I was like, you are the GM, you know how to do every position, right? You're the best at everything. There was a handful of times that I experienced sexual harassment on the job. I would, something would get knocked down, and I would be on the ground trying to get it, trying to reach under stuff with my hands, and all the cooks would be right behind me, commenting on my, behind, and, this, that. I was so uncomfortable. I remember to the point it got so bad, you guys, where I went to Desiree and I said, listen, I'm being sexually harassed. I need HR. I'm going to have to get a hold of HR. Again, you guys, this company is lacking in employees, horrible boss, bad management. Where she was like, well, not yet will we go to HR, and that's my job. So, you just, tell me everything, and, I'll go and handle it with them. This woman ends up winking at me like this, and she goes, well, I mean, it is a compliment, right? Like, they're talking about your butt, doesn't it make you feel good? It's a compliment. And I'm like, no, it's not a compliment. I'm not taking it as a compliment. It feels really disturbing. I said, I'm really uncomfortable around them. I'm like, it's not the first or the second time that they've done this. I was like, and I need it to stop, or I'm going to have to leave. So she has to go and talk back. And guys, Desiree acted like she was one of the boys. I know, she's so cute. Look at her body. And I would just be like, oh my God. Again, you guys, I was lacking in boundaries. I didn't even advocate for myself. The only thing I asked for was HR. I endured it. I endured all of it just because I was like, what do I do? Who am I going to go to now? Like, lacking. Let me tell you guys that these people will get their families jobs, but then they don't want to hear anything about how awful of a job their family is doing. I remember one time I had like twisted my ankle. I was working like 10-hour days, filling in for everybody. And, I twisted my ankle. I was like, oh, I can't walk anymore. And I had let Desiree know, I'm going to have to go home. I'm not doing well. I don't think I should be walking. I'm going to go home and ice my ankle and let you know how I'm doing by tomorrow. And she was like, oh, I really need you to stay, Nicola. I can't let you go home because we just need somebody here. And I need someone to answer the phones. I only have 2 servers and I have, 2 cooks and it's just me and I'm doing deliveries. I really need you to stay here. I said, well, you could call somebody to come in. I said, because I can't handle a rush. I just twisted my ankle. I need to put my foot up and, let it rest and put some ice on it. And she was like, no, please don't leave. And I got to run. Please just answer the phone, sit down. You could sit at my desk, just pick up the phone. And I'm like, Desiree, I don't feel good. Like, I just want to go home. I said, you let everyone else go home. People call in every single day. I cover them. I was like, please. I've called in one time. I need to go home. She's like, please, I have to go do this delivery. Nicola, I'll be back. She leaves. The phones are ringing off the hook, and I'm just sitting at the back desk. My hands are like, they're just covering my face like this. And her son comes around the corner, and he's like, aren't you supposed to be answering the phones, Nicola? And I'm all, well, for some reason, this phone doesn't work. I said, I don't feel good right now. And he was like, stop it right there. He was like, my mom told me your job is to answer phones. And I'm like, well, all this talking you're doing, you could be answering the phone right now. And he was like, well, then what are you going to do? I was like, the phone's not working. I can't even answer it anyway. I was like, and I'm not going to get up and walk. And he was like, oh, whatever. And he just walked off. You guys, I walked myself right out of that business. I walked out of the back door, got in my car, drove off. I was like, oh, I'm good. Luckily, I only live like 2 minutes away. Put my foot up, you guys, for that night and the next day and just icing it. I was like, there is not going to be a 16-year-old male talking to me crazy, let alone I'm sitting here like you asked, just because, again, I couldn't stand up for myself. I was like, fine, I'll answer the phone. And then after he was like, you're supposed to be answering the phone. I'm like, oh, I gotta go. Like, one thing I can say, I definitely learned, some boundaries on this job. I definitely learned to advocate for myself. I definitely learned, what, disrespect in the workforce and, what professional versus not professional looks like. A couple of things I want to say, like, working my coworkers, you guys, it starts with the GM. They're hiring everybody below them. And, she knew some of these people from growing up. She babysat some of these people. She invited some of these people into her bed. This is why she didn't want to tell on anybody. This is why she always tried to be cool with everybody, Now, I'm going to tell you guys, there was a couple serious situations, and I want to do story times about these, but I'm just going to throw, these in here just to let you know the kind of environment that we were in. One of my coworkers who, all of them were addicts, okay? Every one of my coworkers were abusing some types of substance, whether it was alcohol, whether it was, PK, whatever, whether it was black, whether it was white, they were all abusing something. Luckily for me, I lived in a legal weed state. That's what I would do, but I couldn't do it while I was on the job. It would be, at night when I was at home. Now, there were two, one of the managers who was a part of the sexual harassment towards me. He was very disrespectful, rude. He would always try and make me stay late. When I would have to come open in the morning, I would cover somebody's night shift, and he would say, here it would be 1 a.m. because they were all, abusing substances, drinking on the job, doing whatever, smoking. And he would say, I just need you to do this and do that for the morning opener. And I'd be like, I'm the morning opener. And he'd be like, oh my God, it's like 1 a.m. You should go home. And I would be like, oh my God, I can't stand him. You guys, one night, he had done this to me, and that was it for me. I was like, I just wish, I can never be around you again. I was like, I wish that, you weren't here anymore. He had also made some really nasty comments to my boyfriend about his hair, and you need to cut your hair. And, my boyfriend was like, Jesus had long hair. And he was like, oh, don't get me started about Jesus. And, he was just nasty and negative all the time. Missing half of his teeth. They were all black, his teeth. A lot of people in this area, all their teeth were black or missing. Scary. Now, again, their professional lives can't be, because their personal lives are flooding into them. They take over. So this young man, he would invite everyone to come to his house, hang out, party, whatever. One night they were going out for the general manager's kid's 21st birthday, and I didn't go, nor do I think I was invited. However, this man and my coworker, so the manager, him, and the shift lead, this other guy who they would hang out and do substances all night, the space heater caught on fire, and his mom tried to go and save his life by dragging him out, because she didn't know there was another male or whatever person in the bed with him. So my coworkers were in bed together, and she ends up dragging this other male out, thinking that's her son, and let the garage or whatever they were in burn, caught fire. And when they went in, paramedics or whoever it was, fire department went in, they were like, there was another person in there, and it was her son. He passed away. And I think I even remember this guy telling me, if when I die, or if I however I die, I want to go in a fire. Which is like, woof. He didn't know how true that rang in. But and like I say, you guys, it starts from the top. Like, these people hire people who they probably shouldn't even be working. They lack themselves in complete boundaries, and they don't care about other coworkers. Like I said, this guy was really rude. He was disrespectful, never had a good attitude, played favorites with everybody all the time, just like she did. Who do you think he learned it from? This is something that I had to endure, and everyone was really sad. Even I was just like, whoa, that's crazy that happened. Even though I didn't like the guy, I wouldn't wish death upon him. Even though I was like, oh, I wish, I don't have to be around this person anymore. I can't stand him. Such a weirdo. I was like, oh, I don't really want him to go. And then I'm going to tell you guys another thing, like her life, her personal life leaking into her professional life. There were so many times, you guys, so many red flags where I would sit there and I would go, something really weird is going on between her husband and her daughter. So it was his stepdaughter. She was autistic on the spectrum. And I would always get this sense of like this sexual sense between the two of them. And I'd be like, something strange is going on. Like, the point where I was telling some of my coworkers, I think he's sleeping with the daughter, And again, she was autistic, where I was like, she's not gonna know. Like, this is not okay. I was like, I just have a bad feeling about him. He was really weird. He would come and fill in for, his wife sometimes, didn't even work there, do, certain things. He would be, yelling at people, or he'd be having conversations with the cooks, while we were in a busy restaurant. Just complete lack of respect for anybody working. A couple times, I think he tried to yell at me. And I was just like, don't even try it. You don't even work here. Don't even get started. Like, call your wife. She could talk to me, but you can't. Like, I had enough, you guys. But at the end of it, just because he would come in like every other week with the family. They had 2 boys and a girl. And that was his stepdaughter. And they would come in, and he was just so controlling, and like, to the point where I was like, there's something really strange going on with, their relationship. Something is going on. I don't know what it is, but it's almost like sexual, to where he ended up getting the daughter pregnant. Yeah. Ended up getting her pregnant. Ended up being in jail for that, because they thought that was her father and that he was molesting her, all that other kind of stuff. And actually, she was 19 years old, and they were no blood relation whatsoever. However, he was taking advantage of her because she was autistic. Like, that would be her punishment, basically, is sexual acts. Ooh, awful. This is my GM's husband doing this stuff. This is how insane my GM was, is that she, the daughter keeps the baby, and then has the baby, puts the baby up for adoption. I had quit before all this. I had found out that she was pregnant right at the end, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. She was always projecting their relationship and, pretending like everything was fine, this and that, where I was like, something is off about this family. So the daughter gets pregnant by her husband, and in the end, you guys, this man ignored his wife to the point where she made her daughter call her husband, the man that got her pregnant, that took advantage of her, right? She put the baby up for adoption because her husband wouldn't answer the phone to her, right? She ends up telling me one day when I'm coming in, just to go like pick something up, and she's like, Nicola, so my husband and my daughter are having a baby. Like, she was jealous. Like, she was envious of her daughter. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for your daughter. I hope she'll be okay after this. I remember my GM just looked at me confused, like, yeah, she'll be fine. She's fine. Thankfully that young lady, she ended up getting a couple scholarships. I think she got like community college paid for her. She got housing and stuff like that. She got the hell out of there, you guys. I think she went to something for like arts or something, like, I don't know. But I was just like glad to hear she was out of that area and away from that family, because my GM like banished her to the basement and was like, you can't come out until you have the baby. Awful. Like I said, you guys, they're manipulative, disrespectful, they lack boundaries. This is what's going on in their home life. Imagine how they're going to be at work, right? And you guys, I've already gotten to like 28 minutes on this one, but I just want to, I'll do a part 2 for the next ones. But I just want to say with this, you're going to experience with horrible bosses, again, they have no empathy for you. They want you to have all the empathy for them, all the sympathy for them, but nothing for you, because they could do your job 20 times over. You are nothing to them, okay? They could hire 10 of you in a day, basically how they'll treat you. They don't call you when they need you, but they're constantly calling you when they need you. Everyone from the top to, even the bottom, trash. Everybody, okay, because they don't have good direction. The GMs don't have good direction. They don't have good boundaries, and they don't care about their team. They play favorites with employees. They treat everybody that treats them like crap amazing, but the people who treat them good, just like some people we know who send mixed signals, people that treat them good, they take advantage of their kindness, their niceness. And like I said, you guys, I quit after 6 months. I could not even handle it anymore. And when I did put in my, like 2 weeks, she wouldn't even accept it. She was scarce the last 2 weeks. Constantly she would be talking to me, again, constantly in conversations. My last 2 weeks, she didn't have one word to say to me. When I put in my 2 weeks, I tried to hand it to her physically. She would not even come near me. She knew it was coming, you guys. I just put it on her desk. She read it and she didn't even say a word to me after that. It was like I was nothing to her. She had completely ignored me. Where it was like, you knew this was going to happen. This is nothing new. And another thing, you guys, they cycle through employees like you wouldn't believe. Okay, they're constantly hiring, they're constantly letting go, and that's something that is going to be a pattern when you hear these other stories, is that they're constantly just hiring and filling positions, filling the void, training just a little bit, right? Just for you to know the basics. Not for you to know everything, for you to know the basics to get the job done where they can do their job. All right, you guys, allow that to simmer.